Ramona.
Okay.
It's on, it's a space shuttle.
And she left.
It's on. Crazy. The new administration, we're gonna spend it. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the January 25th, 2024 meeting of the Westhampton Beach Planning Board. I would ask you all to rise and join me in the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening, everybody. We have what appears to be a mercifully short agenda this evening, hopefully with a limited amount of discussion this evening. First, we have a decision on Landmark Mill LLC, which is the proposed Starbucks at 193 and 195 Mill Road.
Anybody here for the applicant? Will you waive the reading of the decision?
Yes, sir.
I make a motion, we accept the decision as written. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. We had a full
Thank you.
application on Ira Minston, 127 Jessup. That's been moved to February. First meeting in February, which takes us to the work session agenda. Gables of Westhampton. Oh, I'm sorry, Rogers. I saw one right past Rogers Avenue. Sorry, Frank. Guess I'm getting ahead of myself. Rogers Avenue Associates, Rogers Avenue.
Good afternoon, Frank Eisler, Smith Finkelstein Lumber, Eisler and Yakubowski, Riverhead for the applicant. It's been a while since I've been here, so welcome back to me. I think two matters that we'd like to talk about today and see if we can bring finality to it. The first is the park fee. As you may recall, back in March, we had a discussion on the park fee, and we had submitted an appraisal at that time and calculated the park fee based on that. And that was done by Ms. Parsons. And her value was 4.3 million, I believe it was. I have it here. Since it was over a year old, we were asked to provide a more up-to-date appraisal. And we did that. And Andrew Stipe had prepared an appraisal, which we've submitted here. It was done in August, and it had a $4 million value, lower than the appraisal that we had from Ms. Parsons back in March. And we've offered, submitted a letter to the board that we've offered to use the higher amount so as to not have any issue on it. And my client has agreed to that, and I've got in writing to the board. So we'd ask that you base the park fee on the $4.3 million appraisal so that we can move forward on that issue.
Is that all?
That's what? It's the first issue, right?
It's not an issue. It's just wrapping up things. The second thing is
An item, how about that?
Right.
An
Item
action-
two.
Item.
item two is I just wanted to confirm we were asked to revise the site work bond appraisal for the bond, which we've done. We did include an amenity center, which had not been included in the prior report that we submitted. We've submitted that, and that's the second item that we asked that be accepted, and that the bonding estimate be as amended.
Bonding estimate, I'll defer to
I think we're
Ron.
paying, we would just like the one for the, we just got in for the Gables. We would like to have it put on letterhead.
I'm sorry, I
We'd like to have it put on letterhead with the, you know, the engineer's letterhead.
oh, the actual, we'll take care of that for you. The actual schedule itself.
Yeah.
Oh, that's, okay, that's fine. All right.
And the appraisal, most appraisals fall somewhere between art science and voodoo.
Talk about that.
I appreciate that. I mean, we're talking, you know, for appraisal purposes, 4 versus 4.3. This minds can disagree one way or the other. Mr. Newbauer.
Well, I would like to get some kind of relationship to appraised tax value. I mean, like Dave just said, this is voodoo, what we've been doing all along. You know, I don't understand how this, I mean, I appreciate that there are experts to render appraisals, but I mean, how does, you get a different appraisal, you get a different appraiser, yeah, I mean, this just doesn't seem to have any continuity.
Well, the problem with that, and another hat that I wear at another time of year, I'm on the town assessment review board, and it is rare that the appraised value and the assessed value ever intersect, because the town has their own issues. They had 100% market value, now they're down to 79%. It's constantly moving around. So I don't really believe that the town's taxable assessed value is really an accurate indicator of the value of the property.
What about the village?
The
Village uses the towns.
Used to have its own assessment capacity, but no longer does. So I think the only alternative that we have as a board, and I think we've done it in the past, and I'm not saying we need to do it now, but I think we've, had, we've had applicants hire an appraiser.
Well, that's where we
That's
are
where we
right
now.
It is, but Patty Parsons is the person that we've used several times.
That's why I'm not saying in this particular
Yeah.
case, I appreciate Mr. Neubauer's concerns. But
The oth- the
assessment
other,
value is not a very good guide.
the other good thing that we have in this particular case is to make it a little less sounding like voodoo science, we actually have a purchase price where this particular applicant had a contract that was related to the number of units that they would get. They paid this money arm's length. It's not like the property's been sitting in a family for 50 years and now we're trying to guess. This was actually what somebody was willing to pay for it. And Patty Parsons added an increment to it to bring that number current, an interest, essentially an interest increment to it to bring it up. So I forget what the number, maybe your number was 4.1 or something, and
Yeah,
she added a couple $100,000 to it.
Appraised value is fluctuating. I mean, really a 300,000 change in appraisal is not
well, if you.
unheard of. And 6 months from now, it could be 3.7. I mean, depending on what comps you
And
use. So
one of the things that you'll see whenever properties are appraised for whatever purpose by appraisers, all of whom are credentialed, and condemnations is a very good example of this. The property owner who's being condemned has an appraisal for X, and the municipality condemning comes in with also a qualified appraiser who's at Y, usually lower than X. It's, the Stipe appraisal that we submitted now, I mean, he's a very well-recognized appraiser. He's put in comparables, he evaluated the property, and he actually looked at our sale, as did Parsons, and he came with a lower appraisal. I mean,
They're also, they're less than 10% variance between each other, so that gives you some level of confidence. And the applicant saying, we're willing to take the higher of the two,
Right.
which,
I'm not really questioning
You
the
know.
applicant, I'm just really questioning the procedure here. It seems to me that, there's a lot of room for wiggle. I recognize that this board has paid attention to that, and Ms. Parsons apparently is somebody that we have a degree of confidence in. So we certainly appreciate when an applicant acquiesces to using somebody that we have that degree of confidence in.
we've also, I think we've shown in the past, the Avador was the good example of that one, where if somebody comes in with
Yeah.
an incredible, I can spot it.
Yeah.
It's like, you can just tell that there are certain assumptions that are made and they just don't pass the smell test. And when we got our own appraisal in that case, through Ms. Parsons, it was a much higher number, so.
But we all rolled our eyes on that one.
I think there's enough indicia on these, we have 2 appraisals, we have a purchase price by these applicants, that it's pretty good confidence level that
Yeah.
we're as close as we can get to.
I was never
Yeah.
judging this confidence
Mm.
level.
and there's a
Please
point
know
where
that.
there is a point where you have to just say we're done here. And move
Yeah.
on. Yeah, we can get appraisals for the next.
No,
time.
no,
It'll
no,
all
no.
be
I'm
different.
not suggesting that.
No, I
I'm
know.
just looking for some kind of reference. And you've clarified that. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you for your patience.
Those are our two items.
I think perhaps they've been addressed. I think the general consensus is, along with council's,
Discuss.
recommendation, that's right.
I just want to raise something on the bond. Not a big number, but that work at the intersection outside. Did you put a separate number in for that? Because that's not really well detailed in the plans. I want to make sure that that gets done.
Yeah, we'll look at that again. I believe that was in the overall numbers for the drainage improvement. We did clarify that the plan as to what was going in there. It's really one dry well and one catch basin. It's not a lot.
There's no radius. I mean, it's just, it's not, doesn't have a level of detail with the inside. The laying it out.
Okay, I'll look at it again, but on one of the more recent plans, we did revise that, add some additional detail, but I'll check on the bond if that's included in the numbers in there.
Well, if it is, just
I'll break
separate
it out separately.
Separate.
Yep.
All right, pending that technical adjustment, and we're okay with the appraisal as far as, unless anybody else on the board wants to weigh in, I think we're good with it. Where do we stand now procedurally for the applicant?
Working on the decision then.
Do we close the public hearing tonight, or we want to wait and give it some
They
time?
wait until the final pieces of paper are submitted, because they are part of the record, so. The 2 weeks isn't gonna make any difference, and if we have the decision ready for the next meeting, we just simultaneously close the hearing and adopt the decision.
Fair enough. So provided, I guess, you get that, information to Ron in a timely fashion.
You'll have it
We
first thing tomorrow
will,
morning.
yeah, we will see you on February.
It's going
8th.
on vacation.
I changed my flight from the 5th of February to the 9th, so I could be here for the 8th.
We will see, if, hopefully,
It's not vacation
Well,
either, I'm working down there.
we-
but Go ahead.
we'll hope to see you on February 8th and hope to have a decision so that we could close the public hearing and adopt the determination at the same time, and therefore send you on your merry way at last.
That would be wonderful,
Sure.
although I'm sure my clients don't want that to happen.
We
No,
would-
thank
we
you.
would miss you.
It's been a while. It's been a journey, but thank you very much,
Thank
and
you
we'll
very
see you in a couple of weeks.
We will leave it at that.
Make a motion, we hold the application over to the next meeting.
Second. Whatever, even though we don't technically hold anybody over.
Okay.
There's still a public hearing.
But we don't
They still are.
hold anybody. Technically. At least that's what I was told.
Okay.
Under work session agenda, Gables of Westhampton, Hampton Equity Group, Mr. Fume.
Good afternoon to the applicant.
Beach. Good afternoon.
Not that you don't know who I am by now, but just force a habit. So since we were last together, we received some comments. We provided a new phasing plan. We provided the bond estimate on letterhead. I think there's one more bond estimate we need. Is there a second one?
Don't forget.
Okay, we're good. All right, so we've done all that. We're beginning to get some feedback. And I guess we're wondering if it's better to deal with that here or whether we can meet with the village professionals and I don't know, I don't really have a sense of how far apart we are in what.
Why
we've
don't you just,
proposed
so
and-
it's on the record, why don't you, from your perspective, just kind of summarize where we're at in terms of that?
Okay, well, the thing that that was being looked for was an updated phasing plan. And I think that obviously that's important because I think we want to tie the payments of the park fee as well as the issuance of the COs to some characteristic of the phasing plan.
Since those are really more technical and engineering issues, I don't think we have to really discuss the details of it.
Well, I just want to clarify that we've got a 1 and a 1A. Is the one, are we making 3 park payments? We're making 4 park payments?
We're making 4, but the first one is before the beginning. And then the second one would be at the conclusion of 1A.
The first one is before 1A.
Yes,
Second one is at the
Before.
conclusion of
1A.
1A,
yes.
beginning of 1.
Well, there's no 1. There's a 1A, a 1B, and then a 2.
Okay, 1B.
So for reasons that are,
Obvious,
Yeah.
okay.
I don't know if they're obvious or not, but anyway, there's day 1A, 1B, 2,
So
3.
there'll
and
be
4.
four payments
Right.
tied to certain aspect
Right.
and timing of the phasing plan.
Yeah,
The technical aspects of which you'll sort out with Ron, the village attorney,
and the,
the vet planner, whoever
the,
wants to be
the
involved.
park fee will be entirely paid before the commencement of the last phase. So you'll be ahead of us in that regard.
So.
I will be issuing COs based on completion of individual phases. You'll be providing COs to 1A, then 1B. So we'll be moving people into the site.
Yes.
And that's part of what we've been looking at as a team which forced this conversation about phasing, is to make sure at the end of each phase, everything's safe. Any residents moving in are gonna be protected from the construction that's happening in the next phase.
Right.
That kind of stuff, so that we have a comfort level that Brad's gonna be able to issue COs for all those units in that completed phase, because they will be protected. So that's been sort of the focus of what we've been looking at as a group, to make sure that we have a clarity in the plans that enable everybody to be comfortable that the first 8 units will get COs after the completion of 1A, and then the next few units will get COs after 1B, and so on and so on. So
And part of that is the construction entrance moves at the construction entrance for 1A is in 1A. But as soon as 1A is complete, the construction entrance moves further down Riverhead Road to actually the final.
Yeah, the final entryway.
And so all access will be at the
Off of
point
Riverhead.
furthest away from the residences. And I believe there's fencing and other things.
So you're constructing west to east. That's the general plan.
Yes,
From Depot Road towards.
correct. And Depot Road will not be a construction entrance as per the last.
Ever.
You're gonna build from the inside back, basically.
Correct.
Got it.
Currently have an entrance off of Montauk Highway that's up close to Depot Road, correct?
Correct.
Yes.
That'll be the construction access for phase 1A, because that was the old curb cut that was associated with the property. So that will go away once 1A is done. And then we'll move to the permanent entrance.
Correctly, I don't think that driveway was on the Swift.
It's,
The other
we're,
one was taken away.
yeah, we're revising it. So we originally did not have that on there. Because that was part of new curbing along Montauk Highway. We had been showing for the last number of years, Depot Road being the other construction entrance, which we were only advised 2 weeks ago, that can't happen.
Right.
So that's now being moved. So that's been changing on some of these plans, Ron. I have to, once we get the phasing plan knocked out, I'll revise the other plan accordingly.
Let's pay the plan. Phase 1A doesn't quite match up to the health.
Yes, and that's partly because of the Depot Road change. So we're gonna flip flop 2 of the buildings. We got approved for 8 total units. We're gonna move 2 to the other side so we can build out from Depot Road and go back east.
I think it makes a lot more sense, even if you had access to Depot Road, do it the way you're doing it.
Right, yeah, so we can amend that, but like I said, I wanna just try to make sure we're all on the same page
Are
with
you
this.
amending the health department, and then we go.
Correct.
No, that Brad can't issue anything. So
Understood, I can do that, but I wanna, like I said, I wanna try to make sure we sit down and get the phasing plan so that we're all consistently on the same page. I know.
I'll be around tomorrow.
What are you doing after?
we could sit around. We could. I mean, stick around for a little bit.
Yeah.
We'll just sit around out
Careful
there.
letting him go.
We can do that. It'll take 5. I don't think it'll take more than 5 minutes.
That's fine. Yep.
Just sit down with the plans and go.
So pending rather technical issues, would we be in a position to do what we did with the last applicant?
It depends. It depends how fast we get those back, and if we're satisfied with,
Well,
maybe.
all right, so Jim, we're gonna do what we did with the last one. We're gonna be optimistic,
All right.
hopeful. And perhaps on February 8th, we'll be in a position to close the public hearing and perhaps adopt a resolution. If
And-
not, it sounds like at a minimum, the second meeting in February looks. like a- Oh, March.
We'll work real hard to,
Yeah, let's try to
Work
wrap
hard.
this up.
Scramble.
Yeah.
Burn the midnight oil. Whatever you
yes,
gotta do.
and we'll stay as long as we need to this evening, so, as long as you're willing.
As
So
long-
that, and I think that's really where we're at this point.
Well, perhaps the winds will be behind you and push you forward expeditiously.
I hope so. Thank you.
So hopefully we will, plan on seeing you February 8th
Okay,
with certain hopes.
all right, but we're staying tonight.
Right.
Okay,
That's okay.
all right, good.
Stay tuned.
Thank you.
Thank you. And our last applicant for the evening, Beaver Lake Development, Mr. Hafley, welcome back. Haven't seen you in a while.
Wow.
Been in? Be here again. 36 Sunset Avenue, back again?
Huh?
36 Sunset Avenue, back
Well,
again?
This property has been before the board on a number of occasions over the years,
A number?
right? A number.
I would say that's a fast.
And I want to get into one issue and get that resolved right at the beginning. In 1966 and 1967, this property received a subdivision approval from this board and a site plan approval from this board. The owner of the property, the head of the property at that point, Bob Bossung, refused to go forward because the board required an easement from the village parking lot to Sunset Avenue. We're not going to agree to a easement from the village parking lot to Sunset Avenue. You can't impose us that condition upon us. The proposal we're doing does not change the status of the area as it is right now. So,
Can we get a cross access?
excuse me?
Can we get a cross
No,
access?
you're not getting anything. You're getting nothing. Boston,
Mr. Hafley, I think you were.
and there's a case in the appellate division which holds that you can't give us it.
Okay, well,
I mean, look, listen, you know what the feelings of this board, were. The last time we looked at it, I don't think it's changed. So I'm not gonna get bogged down in the legal, what we can and can't do. That's why we have a village attorney. But I will say that it is the general feeling of the board, especially when we're talking about the downtown area, connecting commercial properties where feasible, that we would not insist, but we would have a strong desire for cross access. Adam at the moment.
Well, I'm saying to you, under the law, you can't require me to give you the access, and we don't want you to give you the access. We don't want the village to use our property for access to and from Sunset Avenue. I mean, that's got to get resolved first. I would
But
appreciate.
what you submitted, as I understand it, what you submitted was partial development of this property.
We're only proposing to develop one lot, one portion of the property with a site plan approval. We're not going any further as far as subdividing the property at this point in time. What we have done is we've placed the property or the location of that building in a location where a subdivision could be completed, and that would end up being one of the lots.
Understood.
Okay.
I just want to make sure I understood,
Yeah,
because I
yeah.
was hoping I didn't miss something. Well, I mean, I'm not sure where we go if the applicant, I mean, if you want to.
I haven't looked at anything that was submitted. Have you submitted an argument, a memo of law or something like, do you want to?
I have a case. I'll give it to you. Your firm was involved in it.
Okay,
was
submit the
village-
case. I'll,
Appellate division case comparable to this one, which it said you can't require an access where an access isn't.
we don't have to go to approval site plan either, right?
this was my case, but it is a little, it is quite different. It was a residential case. But
That's
I'll
not
look
what,
at,
that's not what that case says.
but it
that's-
was a residential case. I'm just telling you, it was a
I understand,
residential
I
case.
understand where the property was.
Well, I'll report back my opinion and then the board can make a decision and they have a right to insist on what they want to insist on. And if you don't agree with them, they have their remedies, so.
Could I ask a question? Are you adverse to a one-way access from Glover?
We're adverse to
Glover's
any
Lane.
access between the village parking lot and Sunset Avenue. You have no right to require it, and we don't want it.
And
We don't
both
want, we don't
directions are
want to assume the responsibility of the village,
any
it's
direction.
up to the
I wanna
village
make
to
sure it
provide the
wasn't-
parking.
The one-way direction wasn't.
What is, and it's no judgment, I'm just curious, what is the basis of not wishing to accommodate?
Of what?
What is the basis? Why?
We don't want, we don't want the,
Just don't want
village-
to.
we don't want to assume the responsibility of the village providing parking.
That's
We
fine.
want the parking to be only for our own people that have.
We're not talking about the parking.
Yeah, I don't
we're
think
talking
anybody's
about
talking about
access.
The access would be the same thing because people will come off the access and will park there.
Not if they're not permitted to.
Yes, they do. I have a unit in the patio. It's a private property. Half of the cars there during the week and on the weekends are cars that do not have any relationship to the patio. But we're using, the village is allowing, we're assuming the responsibility of the village by providing the parking. And we're not gonna do that.
What's the difference between one access on a village road versus two? Because that's all it is. You have an access point onto a public road.
We have an access
So,
point for our
so in
property.
no, let me finish. In theory, the public could illegally go in and park from Sunset,
Excuse me?
right? They could illegally enter your property anyway and do it. What's the difference between having one access point versus two?
What do you mean? Would only be one access point.
But
What's-
nothing,
so I'm-
nothing prevents
But it's
anybody.
not.
I'm
we're
asking
not-
what's
we're
the
not allowing
difference?
The parking lot in the rear, which is a village parking lot, for those cars to travel over our property to Sunset Avenue. It's that simple.
So you don't want to, you're talking about parking, is it, you don't want. the
He's not
parking?
talking about.
We
the
don't
parking.
want,
you
we
don't
don't
want the
want, we
traversing-
don't want the village residents generally to travel over our property.
You don't want to use it as a cut through.
Huh?
You don't want them to use it as a cut through.
We don't want to
Okay.
use it. If the village wants that access, they can buy it.
No, that's a reason, I just was looking for the reason. I don't want to is a good reason too, but.
Maybe we should explore buying it.
Well, I think until obviously we have.
We're gonna
some-
need some time to look at this.
We're gonna need some time to,
No, I assume that.
so, we will wait to hear back from the village attorneys, as far as what their opinion is. They're the legal counsel to the board. And, I guess we'll proceed from there.
Okay.
Do you
And
wanna
then you
come
let me
back,
know when it's back on.
you wanna come back on February 8th? I mean,
No.
you come back in March, which is looking.
We'll let you know when, we'll let
Yeah,
you
well,
know.
why don't we, give me a chance to take a look at it and then we'll just let you know. And we'll coordinate it with
That's fine.
paper.
Okay.
We'll give you some advance notice.
The issues. Fine, but I
I think this is a threshold issue. If we don't.
kind of assumed that this would be the
Yeah.
case. Just get this out.
If we don't get this done.
Fair. I think that's fair. You're
Excuse
entitled.
me, I'm sorry.
I think it's fair. You're entitled to an answer to that question.
Well, I knew that was an issue and I wanted to bring it up right at the beginning.
Love get.
I'm not gonna go through 3 months of a site plan approval and you say we want the parking and I'm telling you, we're not gonna give you the parking. I want that resolved at the outset.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Makes sense.
Okay?
Thank you, Mr. Hayford. Very good. That seems to be it for our, actually, we have no approval on the January 11th minutes. Did we skip them?
Make a motion, we accept the minutes as written for January 11th.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to close.
Make a motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We'll see those who are interested, February 8th.
He could have been a little